I was so excited about this book. This cover is one of my favorite Original 62 covers, if not my favorite Original 62 cover. It is scary as all hell. This story, I shouldn't say story, because the story doesn't even involve what's in the cover. This cover alone makes it one of the most terrifying expectations for what a story should be. And then you actually read the story. And it's the most disappointing Original 62 thing I've read so far as of right now. And I've read several upon several. It is very, very disappointing. Okay. Now, if you like this book, again, this is just my opinion. Do not take this seriously. If you like the book, that's completely fine. I will not judge you. I will just wonder why the hell you would ever like such a disappointing book like this. No, I'm kidding. This book, in my opinion, is pointless. And I do try to find positives about it, but at the end of the day, it just ends up being very mediocre, and it just... I can't defend this story. And luckily, I've talked to a lot of people, and they don't really like the story that much either. So, it seems like I'm not the only one. But with that introduction, let's get started. For those who don't know, I am BD Horror. This is my second channel where I focus on horror reviews, basically revolving around kids' horror books, Goosebumps, and other related media. So this is where it's all going to be focused on. So if you like this content, be sure to subscribe down below. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to comment down below your own thoughts and opinions. It's a free way to support me, and I love seeing the support. It motivates me to keep making more content because it lets me know that you guys like the reviews and you guys like how I talk and everything else. So there you go. So without further ado, let's get into this review, and thank you all for tuning in. So the book I'm going to be reviewing today is one of the Original 62. It is called You Can't Scare Me, and in my opinion, it's one of my favorite covers of Goosebumps, especially for the Original 62, but maybe even of all time. I love it. It's completely haunting. It sets up a very scary atmosphere, and it's just very, very... I don't know how you say it. It's very dark looking. I actually had a cover of this book when I was a kid because for some reason there was actually a ripped off version of this cover. Maybe as a kid I ripped it off a book, but it was inside of a drawer in my kitchen. So whenever I was a kid, I would open up the drawer and I would just stare at that ripped up cover because I thought it was terrifying. I don't know what Tim Jacobus did, but he nailed it. All right, he nailed it. Now, granted, he made that cover knowing that none of that had to do with the book. And it's complete clickbait, which to be fair, but you know what? I'll let it slide, Tim, because you know what? That was one of the best covers of all time. So I'll let it slide. But yeah, for those who don't know, this cover is complete clickbait because these mud monsters do not appear until the very end of the book. And even then, they do not hold much relevance and they don't hold much purpose. So just letting you know that ahead of time. What is this book about? This book is about a group of friends, Eddie and his friends, trying to scare the popular girl in school named Courtney. She is a girl who is extremely popular, extremely pretty, and she never gets scared of anything. There's this instances in the beginning where basically Eddie gets scared by a snake that's about to bite him, and then she picks it up and she's just playing around with the snake, and everyone's like, wow, she's so brave, she's not scared of this wild snake. And then there are like multiple bees that land on her hand, and they won't sting her, they'll just go around. But then whenever they leave her hand, they go and sting other people. So she's like this animal whisperer, so she never gets scared of stuff. And the whole story revolves around them trying to scare Courtney. Now here's my issue with this book. Let's address the main one, which is the ending climax of the book, and I guess you could say the very ending of this book. In the title, or actually not in the title, well, yeah, maybe in the title, but in the thumbnail, you see pointless written there. And I think this book is completely pointless. Now, if the plot synopsis has to do with them trying to scare Courtney, and I say this book is pointless, you can put two and two together as to what this book is about. And that's one of the main reasons I despise this book with a passion. In reality, this book is not that bad. In my score, I will not rate it as badly as you think I will. But one way for me to not like a book is if there is a ton of pointless stuff in the book, or if the entire book leads up to a completely pointless conclusion. One of the main reasons that I like Werewolf of Fever Swamp, which is a review before this, I did the first review on this channel. The reason why I like that book is because it has a very linear structure to the pacing, and every single action that happens in that book matters, and it leads to the payoff at the end, which makes it all the more, valid. And there's a twist ending, and the twist ending makes it also, it builds off of that payoff and continues on with the story. It's really satisfying once you get to the end of the book, and everything involving in the book, makes sense. This book, on the other hand, is basically just Three Stooges shenanigans that don't lead up to anything. I mean, the climax of the book is scary, I'll give it to you. If I was in that situation, spoiler alert, I would be scared. Low-key, I should be in the book. If I was in the book, these kids would have succeeded, but, apparently they didn't know who they were dealing with. The person that they're dealing with is on another level. Or maybe they're just that incompetent. Could be either of the two, it could be both. But in this book, all they do throughout the book is just try to scare Courtney, and they do it in the most basic, uncreative ways possible. One of the ways they try to do it is by putting a rubber snake in her lunchbox, which comes with a glaring issue in the fact that I just told you that at the beginning of the story, she grabbed a wild snake, picked it up when it was about to bite the protagonist, and starts playing with it. Why do you think an artificial snake would scare her? If a real snake did not scare this girl, why do you think a rubber snake is going to scare her? And guess what? It doesn't go right. It just goes like the same way cartoons do. It doesn't go according to plan. It ends up scaring somebody else. They end up scaring the teacher because it ends up that, it was in his lunchbox. Or no, I think she hands him his lunch. She's like, oh, you didn't have lunch, sir? Don't worry, I got you. And he's like, I appreciate that, Courtney. And then he gets it. She gets scared. And then he also finds out that the friends did it, apparently. So, yeah, or I don't know. Then the next one is they go to their like science lab, and then they go in the school and they pick up a tarantula, and they go to the top of a that's a tough word, gymnasium floor, and they drop it on her head. Doesn't work, does not work. Then it ends up dropping on her friend, and her friend gets pissed at the friends. Again, non-creative. Just there's a spider, let's drop it on her head. Oh, there's a rubber snake, put it in her lunch. Then they try getting their dog to scare her. Doesn't end up working. And then finally you get to the climax where they are, trying to build off the legend of the mud monsters that are in the, in the cover of the book. So the legend behind the mud monsters, I think, is that there were some village people back in the day, and there was a giant flood that flooded all of them, and they ended up the entire old village ended up drowning, and they ended up getting their bodies sunk into the mud. And then every, full moon, I don't remember, full moon or something, these mud monsters arise and they come out and they dwell and they look for stuff. Very cool urban legend. I appreciate that. That is a very cool urban legend. I wish it had more relevance to the story, but a very cool urban legend nonetheless. And when you get to the climax, basically what happens is Eddie and his friends try to get their brother, and their brother is in a mud monster costume because he's pretending to dress up as a mud monster for one of his friends recording a film about it. And he has them try to scare Courtney. And what ends up happening is, let's just say the imaginary mud monsters and the real mud monsters may not be able to tell which is which, and there might be a whole situation going on, and that is effectively the climax of the story. And again, it all leads to nothing. Now, that scene was great. It had a very tense atmosphere. It was very scary. The image of the mud monsters rising out of the mud is horrific. It's just as horrific as the cover shows it as, and in the book it's described as just as terrifying. The urban legend is very cool. Knowing that the town had that cool of an urban legend helps it out a lot. But again, the major weakness within this book is the fact that that should have been highlighted first. That if that is the legend of the book, it would have improved this book more if we saw more of it. Does not lead up to anything. I told you, it's just a pointless book. You can assume what the conclusion is once you read it, and even before you read it. And I think one of the ways that this book can be improved is that one of the glaring weaknesses about this book is Eddie and his friends being the protagonist characters, because they are effectively harassing a girl just because she's popular and she's not scared of stuff. Courtney does not go out of her way and bully the kids. She does not go out of her way and be mean to the kids. She lives her own life. She's just popular and she's just not scared of anything, so the friend group does not like her, right? And she believes in monsters. So literally, just because of her nature and what she believes in and the fact that she's pretty and popular, they just decide to harass and hate on her. How am I supposed to enjoy a group of protagonist characters if all they do is bully a girl just for living her life? She doesn't go up and attack them. She doesn't go up and insult them. She doesn't go up and make fun of them. She never harasses them. She only gets bullied by them. So the protagonists don't really deserve any sympathy, or they don't deserve any type of like investment. I mean, they're not the most interesting group of characters to begin with, but I don't see how you can appreciate these characters because they're just harassing this girl for no reason. So I think a better way to do this book is don't have them bully and harass a girl just for being popular and not scared of stuff. Have them be jealous of that girl and then they try to become fearless. So throughout the book, have them try to do stuff to become fearless around town. So do stuff in front of kids and in front of Courtney and in front of people to look like they're not scared of anything. And then it ends up failing, obviously. So come up with creative stuff to do. Come up with ways that they fail. And then, Courtney will laugh at them or giggle. Her friends will laugh at them, or the school will laugh at them. People will laugh at them. And then at the end of the book, have the Mud Monsters legend come in. Have a section dedicated, or maybe have more dedicated towards Mud Monsters and the legend, and then have them tell Courtney, hey, this happens at full moon. You believe in it, right? Well, how about we meet up to go see these mud monsters, and you'll see who's not scared. You think that we're scaredy cats? We're not scared. We're gonna go encounter those mud monsters, and I bet that you won't join us to see them. And once you do that, then you have the climax, and then at the end, it could end off with like Courtney gets scared off. I think that's actually what should happen. Courtney gets scared off, and then the guys think that these are, their brothers dressed up as mud monsters, and turns out, at the end of the book, the revelation is that the brothers are like, we were never there. We decided to ditch you guys. And they realize that they encountered the real mud monsters. And then the next day, Courtney's in school telling everybody, these guys are so fearless. These guys aren't scared. These guys aren't scared. And it ends off with an ending that actually has a point. That is not how this book goes. And that's not how the ending goes. So, unfortunately, Stein, that's what I would have wanted. I heard the Series 2000 book, Are You Terrified Yet, is kind of like that. So I'm excited to read that book. I've heard Goosebumps Completionist praise that book a lot. And I've heard a lot of people praise that book. So I'm hoping to read that. I think that might be what this book was trying to be. But yeah, that's my review of You Can't Scare Me. In terms of the positives of the book, I love the cover. There you go, I love the cover. I will say the climax with the mud monsters is pretty scary. The urban legend's very good. So those are the 3 praises I can give the book. Otherwise, the book is very mediocre. And again, because it's pointless, I would not recommend anybody reads this book. I would not recommend you guys waste your time. If you really want to read it that bad, or you just want to have it just to read it, go ahead, feel free. Don't take my opinion too seriously. And if you like this book, feel free to like it. This is just my opinion. You can like whichever book you like. Goosebumps books are different for everybody, and everyone has their own preferences, so feel free to like what you like. In my opinion, it was just disappointing. And in terms of my rating, I will give it a 5 out of 10. I think 5 out of 10 is fair. If it was a 5 scale, it'd be a 2.5 out of 5. I don't like the book. I think it's disappointing. I think it's not good. But I don't think it's terrible. I don't think the book is inherently terrible. The writing is fine. The shenanigans are okay. The climax and scares are fine. They're fine. It's just sort of like a mediocre book, and then once it gets to the ending, it just drops below. And it only drops below for me just because of the fact that at the end, it did not matter. But otherwise, it's an average book. So that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you stuck up with the rant. I hope you enjoyed my feedback of the book. Again, if you like the book, feel free to like it, but this is just my opinion. If you want to see more reviews of the original 62, Series 2000, give yourselves Goosebumps, Slappy World Most Wanted, Horrorland, just feel free to let me know which books you want me to review down in the comments down below, and let me know your own thoughts and opinions on this book. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Do you feel the same way, or do you actually happen to like the book? And if you like the book, explain to me why you like the book, because I'd love to hear that. And again, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It's a good way to support me. It's a good free way to support. It makes me know that you guys like the content, you guys like what's being put out, and it's just a good way to keep in track with it. And yeah, that's all it is for today. So, deuces. It's always a thing where whenever the book is so good, I stay on a linear path during the review, and when it turns to ranting, I just go all over the place. All over the place. Maybe unintentionally, that lines up very well for how this book was, as this book is so all over the place.